Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. Let's begin right in the nation's capital, where the Yaoundé Mfundi High Court has rejected the application for habeas corpus filed by defense, the defense lawyers of Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and other leaders of Ambazonia that were arrested in Nigeria and taken to Cameroon. It should be noted that it was their first time to appear in court, but they were simply absent during the rendering of the judgment, or during the time when the judgment was being rendered. Let's have the details of that report in the following story. Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and other 46 Ambazonian leaders would have to remain behind bars until final judgment is rendered on their case. The Mfundi High Court has decided so after rejecting the application for habeas corpus filed by the defense lawyers to hasten the release of the accused.
In the procedure for habeas corpus, we file a habeas corpus writ. That habeas corpus writ requires that the body, the corpus delicti, that's in Latin, supposed to be before the judge. All the 10 people were supposed to be before the judge. Nobody came. They didn't take the time to bring them. So for the judge to have taken a decision to throw out the file, it's shocking, but I'm not surprised.
The case was called in court in the absence of Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and 9 others who were due to appear before the judges Thursday. The defense team has described the absence of their client as a fatal error.
So that is a fatal error, which they were not even supposed to open the file. They were supposed to just adjourn the file so that we can have the opportunity to bring them. They can have the opportunity to bring them. They went ahead and said that the other 3.
The free government lawyers added into the defense team has equally been criticized.
Lawyers who were chosen by government and imposed on the accused persons instead have filed a discontinuance in this matter when they were not supposed. I'm the senior counsel here. I was supposed to be the one to file if there's anything to file. They went ahead and filed. And secondly, they claim that there's a document which they call Déclaration sur serment. When they say Déclaration sur serment, you don't take it in the quartier. You don't take it anywhere. You take it before the judge. So if they were here, we would have had them to sign that declaration before the judge. But they were not here because they were not produced before the judge.
Barrister Frujan Saw and other members of the Defense Council have described the proceedings as political and pledged to file an appeal.
Politics has entered in the judicial system in Cameroon. Thank you very much. No, we are going on appeal. We'll go on appeal until we get to the bottom of it.
The national and international community are still to set eyes on Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and 46 others arrested on the 5th of January in Nigeria and transferred to Cameroon. After worries on their whereabouts grew higher, the government of Cameroon declared that they were safe and sound. And the protest demonstration recently staged in the southwest region of Cameroon by members of the Southwest Northwest Women Task Force has come under criticisms from some observers who have said that they see the move as a pro-government initiative in disguise. They question the ease at which the event actually took place, whereas similar initiatives in Boya, the littoral region and the central regions of Cameroon have simply been turned down by administrative authorities. However, the initiators of the protest demonstration have said that the demonstration had no political leaning. Let's have the details with Mfomi Armstrong Sander.
Parts of Boya uninterrupted. At the Bongo Square surrounding where the heavily attended manifestation took place were military vehicles and security officials, but their presence was no hindrance to the protesters. Some opinions have brandished the initiative as a pro-government manifestation in disguise. They justified their views on questioning why the manifestation took place without interruption, whereas similar initiatives to call for peace in the troubled regions have either been banned or protesters molested. A situation witnessed in Boya, Bamenda, Douala and other localities across Cameroon. Reacting on these views, Madam Omam Jomo, president of the Southwest and Northwest Women Task Force and founder of Reach Out Cameroon, said she is not a member of any political party and has no link with political partisan interests. She continued that as a civil society leader who has been active for many years, she could not be silent in the face of atrocities, killing and suffering in the north and southwest regions of the country. She further stated that the protest was open to every woman touched by the events in the two English-speaking regions of the country.
And traders in Bamenda, we bring you updates on happenings in that part of Cameroon, have cited series of reasons why they have opted to stay indoors on Mondays, observed as ghost town in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. They called on the government officials to create an enabling environment for the population and business persons to go about their day-to-day activities normally. They were speaking during a crisis meeting which took place in Bamenda, that was this Thursday. Details in this report.
It will be fine for we because we see them, we know them.
At the Bamenda Congress Hall Thursday, traders of the town's main market were present to table their series of grievances to local administrators. The meeting came after the governor of the Northwest region shut down the Bamenda main market on grounds that traders opted to stay indoors on Mondays. Governor Adolphe Lille-Lafrique decided that the market will remain closed throughout the week unless the traders stopped to observe the Ghost Town Day. After enduring for 3 days, the traders stormed the governor's office Wednesday, where their problem was addressed and the market reopened. But then, a Thursday meeting was scheduled for them to explain why they failed to open their business premises on Mondays.
Markets are not open on Mondays because of no customers. Point number one, right?
Markets are not opened on Mondays because there are no customers. When two elephants are fighting, the grass suffers. The government should create a conducive environment for the entire population, including the traders that we are. There is no transportation means on ghost town days in the Northwest region. Our shops could equally be targeted. There is no adequate security to protect us against gun exchange between pro-independence fighters and security forces.
They will shoot tear gas for market, and two, they will shoot guns in the market where they can fear and run come up market so that they fear the market.
One of them tried to describe the army as friendly, but was highly criticized.
If you're not trying for front policeman in negotiation, when you are trying to come my sisters and brothers, I say, policeman, when you meet up, go directly to. No fear. When you fear you,
the first assistant divisional officer for Bamenda 2 subdivision, who represented the governor, said that the people's grievances will be channeled to the right headquarters for solutions. And back to school, atmosphere in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon has remained uncertain despite multiple calls for classes to resume effectively in the Northwest and the Southwest regions. A similar call was re-echoed by Governor Bernard Okalia-Bilai and other local administrative officials. That was yesterday. It was during a special live program that was aired on the state media. Details with Derek Jato.
How to take off for the 2018-2019 academic year is top on the Southwest Governor, Mr. Bernard Okalia-Bilai's agenda. At the conference hall of his office recently, the Southwest Governor started by demanding from academic stakeholders of the region to present the situational report on the ground as the countdown narrows.
As concerns preparations, the book list is already available. We know that there is just this one child, one book policy per subject.
Other than that, the school doors are open.
On their part, as school authorities, they are ready, but the interest on the ground, from students to parents, is yet to gather the expected steam. Noted, the Southwest Governor the next day took the Operation Back to School campaign to another altitude. The same academic stakeholders are invited, plus traditional rulers and municipal authorities to an outdoor live program on the airwaves of the state radio station in Boya.
They pretend that by protecting the English system, they should kill English. Because if you don't go to school, you will not speak English. So I think that everybody has understood now, and let us move forward, please.
As a team with one goal, to convince the academic family of the region to see reasons of sending their children to school.
And I'm inviting the parents and all the leaders to open dialogue with those people, because they are our brothers and sisters. They are coming from our villages. Let us tell them that the issue of preventing children to go to school can no longer work.
It is their wish to welcome pupils and students in their various institutions come Monday, September 3, 2018, day 1 of the new academic year in Cameroon.
Of Cameroon have simply relocated to Lum of the Mongo division of Cameroon, but the back-to-school fever is still to be felt in that part of the littoral region of Cameroon. The lack of finances to purchase school needs for the children and increase in the prices of some school kits have so far been cited by the parents as huge stumbling blocks. Details with Simanjik and Gabriel.
This school that was initially in Tombel will go operational in Lum, Mongo Division this year. This is as a result of the Anglophone crisis rocking the Northwest and Southwest regions.
Pupils who are displaced from the trouble zones of the Northwest and Southwest for the past 3 academic years, that due to the socio-political atmosphere in the Southwest region, the proprietor, with his aim to educate young Cameroonians, thought it wise to displace the school from Tombel to Lum.
A new compound has been prepared as registration is also going on.
The parents are doing their effort to register their pupils.
Apart from the school, many students and pupils are also reported to have flooded the Mongo division for the fear of the unknown this academic year in the 2 English-speaking regions. Unfortunately, book vendors in the Mongo division are less busier days to the kickoff of the 2018-2019 academic school year, built for September 3rd. The timid turnout of parents and guidance has been linked to the difficult times parents in this part of the country, who are mostly farmers, are facing.
We have few parents that are about to buy the books. Some are buying, some are not buying because of lack of finances. Most people are still planning to buy these books. And due to the increase in prices in the market, parents are unable to afford for the quality books and the quantity they need because of the increased prices.
Another roadside book vendor is blaming the government for the late publication of the book list after investing hundreds of thousands in buying books, but many changed at the dying minute.
C'est tout récemment que la liste est sortie, il y a de cela 1 mois.
We have already invested more than 500,000 on getting books. It is affecting me so badly.
Ça nous affecte tellement.
Apart from books, the turnout for the purchase of other school items like bags and uniforms is also very low. In some schools that we visited, last-minute preparation are ongoing, with fields being cleared and new touch of paint on the wall. Parents are also spotted waiting for their turn to register their children. But too bad, the new methods of paying tuition fees imposed by the secondary education minister is not too welcomed by the parents, as they all call for the old system to be maintained. Cameroonians don't have the means to pay in one installment. Parents should be allowed to pay the tuition fees of their children according to the means available. Reasons why I reiterate that things should go back as before. The new school year starts next September 3, 2018, but the fever of back to school is still to be felt in Mongo Division.
That is the atmosphere in the Mongo Division of Cameroon ahead of back to school. Now, the littoral regional delegates of basic and secondary education still in the littoral region have urged private school proprietors within their area of command to respect the 2018-2019 academic calendar to the latter. During the General Assembly of Private School Proprietors in the city of Douala, that was today, the regional delegate of secondary education indicated that the 3rd back to school, the 3rd of September back to school date would have to be respected. It was simply responding to a school proprietor that was indicating that the back to school date that is slated for the 3rd of September should simply be postponed. Details with Babla Jonathan.
Few days to back to school, private school proprietors in the littoral region of Cameroon are discussing their challenges and mapping out strategies to deal with the several stumbling blocks on their way in a bid to ensure a hitch-free 2018-2019 academic year. They met at their General Assembly in Douala Thursday.
The challenges we are facing today are enormous, but in all these challenges like a kind of the books, the provision of the books for the children. It's quite serious because if you watch now, the government have changed all the books, but right now when you get to the market, you will not see most of the books. So it's a very big challenge that we are facing right now. And again, the support from the government to see how this thing can move forward.
We have meetings like this one that are good opportunities for us to come and give some energy to these the stakeholders of private school.
During the opening ceremony of that meeting, the littoral regional delegate of secondary education explained to them government's efforts to address their challenges and the problem of clandestine schools.
And you can understand that somebody cannot invest billions to make books that have not yet been adopted. They were supposed to wait that the National Committee of Private Books bring out the list signed by the ministers, then at that time they will go and produce. And you understand that they have to produce books without mistake. They have to produce books in a very large quantity. So I think the books are coming, as some of them have said, on some of your different measures. The Minister of Secondary Education and one of Basic Education have signed text making the list of clandestine schools. With the order of the governor of the littoral region, the SDO and the divisional officers of all the various subdivisions have closed all those schools.
In response to the request for postponement of the back-to-school date by 1 week, expressed by one of the proprietors on grounds that it is a problem that students and pupils should return to school without textbooks, the delegate of secondary education for the littoral region dismissed the proposal. He emphasized that the academic calendar will be respected. Pupils and students will return to school Monday, 3rd September 2018.
And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. We shall be right back. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight you have been joined by historian, is equally a political analyst, Mr. Ngimdo Gibet. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you once more for being with you today to talk about things that are very important as far as they concern our nation that we so much cherish about. Thank you very much.
Talking about our nation, the head of state is currently leading a huge ministerial delegation that left the country for China for the China-African Summit due to begin next week. It is the second time in less than 1 year, as I can put it, that the president is actually visiting China. How can you, as a historian, interpret this growing Cameroon-China relation?
Yeah, you know, China from the 1970s became so close to Africa, not only because she was opened to take a chair in the Security Council, of the United Nations, but then because before then, since the United States of America has sidelined China in international relations and preferred to support a hidden few regime in Formosa, that's in Taiwan, called the Nationalist Regime, after, which was headed by one very heady Chiang Kai-shek since 1949. You know, since the Cold War ended, definitely from in the early 1990s, China has been very frequent in Africa. Frequent, firstly because of industrialization, and secondly because you know, when by 1990s, when African nations became independent and they were looking for areas where their economies will vibrate quickly, they started turning south towards south, and the south and south was towards China. Before the 1990s, the only way by which African economies could develop was towards Europe, which was a north-south relation. And as a developing and industrialized nation, China established quick lines with Africa, and the Cameroon has not been left out. Relations between Cameroon and China started from 1949 itself, when the communist regime came up in China. That was under Chairman Mao Zedong. By then, Cameroon was still a trusteeship territory. From 1961, Aidjo developed a kind of attitude which was anti-China, because China was a communist state and was seemingly supporting the UPC in Cameroon. But then, after that, when the UPC was finally crushed following the death of Ernest Wandier in 1971, Aidjo, I must use this word, shamelessly created a kind of link with China, because he had, first of all, hated China at the international level. So in the books of history, we wonder why he had to suddenly create those links with China, and got so close to China, supported China. But today, Cameroon cannot move a step without China. All of us wonder why. A country we have helped, but today we cannot move a step without China. We cannot without that. Besides that, this is what must be clear to all Cameroonians. Today, Cameroon can only survive by South-South relations. South-South relations, why? Not only because they are the ones that can survive the economy of Cameroon.
Only. That is the key word.
I must say
only.
Yes.
Because Cameroon equally has relations with the United States of America and France.
I insist only survive because diplomatic relations between France, Cameroon, United States, Cameroon, Germany, Cameroon, and whatsoever European country are in the first place North-South relations, which are attached by strings. What do I mean by strings? Conditions that surround whatever economic help, because what relation do we have with Europe that doesn't surround economic help? Politically, Africans are, according to them, the way they think, trying to be democratic, but as it stands now, we cannot withstand the level of Europe. Secondly, socially, the social structures that we have in Africa, we cannot go to the level where Europe has. But then, if the politics of a country, if the political development of a country is the political development of a country is very developing, social development of a country is very sober, and then moving on, it depends all on the economic development. When there are no resources, when there are no economic developments, political developments cannot even be visual. Now, Cameroon has resources. Cameroon has all economic developments. And that is why we see the president drifting towards China. We see the president drifting towards Europe. We see the president drifting towards the United States of America. All these things are simply because Cameroon, first of all, is endowed with a lot of resources, endowed with economic resources.
So the resources
are what gives us the background to be able to develop politically. When you see, now tell me, those ministers that are in prison, what did they do? They embezzled. If a country is as poor as other countries that do not have resources, that do not have finances, will a minister alone embezzle billions that he will find himself in prison after being a minister in government? It is difficult. Cameroon has all those things. It is because poor management has drifted us to where we are today that we cannot be able to manage the resources we have, natural, human, everything that we have today, that people now think that we have to depend on Europe.
So how is
we have to depend on China before we
beneficial to Cameroon?
Pardon?
How is this relation, this Cameroon-China relation that is growing on daily basis, beneficial to Cameroon?
The relationship has to be beneficial to Cameroon because we have decided that we must depend on people to be what we are or to be what we want. Normally, Cameroon can grow on its own. Normally, Cameroon doesn't need to grow linking on China because China itself is within the BRICS nation. In economics, after the northern countries, we talk of the BRICS. The BRICS means Brazil, Russia, China, and then South Africa, the BRICS nation. That means that China itself has not yet got to the level where it can be ranked within the level of developed nations. Now, why are we so dependent on China? It is simply because we have so much mismanaged the resources that are at our disposal. So much so that we can no longer do without a country that is managing its own resources well. For example, China, for example, Brazil, for example, Russia. Russia is not is in economics no longer considered, not yet considered as a developed nation. No matter the level of arms that Russia has, economically Russia is not a developed nation. Let's be clear about this. Now, it falls within the BRICS nations. But why must we not survive without China? It is because before 1971, like I said, China, the United States had blocked China from entering the Security Council of the United Nations. The United States had blocked China from entering within the realm of world powers. Therefore, China felt isolated. China had to lobby so that from 1970 to 1973, there was what was called the ping-pong diplomacy between the United States and China. Ping-pong means the exchange visit of table tennis teams that had a political impact. The political impact was that it lobbied the United States government to accept China as a member state of the United Nations and a permanent member of the United States Security Council. In that way now, the United States shifted the support that it had for the Formosa government and recognized the communist government in China. The impact of this was what? Was that China now surfaced as a third world power. Yes, China now surfaced as the third world power from the early 1970s, and that was signaled the end of the Cold War. When it signaled the end of the Cold War, 1990 now, the Berlin Wall was dismantled. The dismantlement of the Berlin Wall now signaled that communism has died. That's what opened China to Africa. Because Europe and the United States could not open Africa to China, to the communists. It happened in China. Patrice Lumumba died because he solicited support from the communist world. The United States opted that he should be physically eliminated, and that happened. Jonas Savimbi died in Angola because he was pro-communist. The United States opted that he should be physically removed. He was physically removed. So this is to tell us that China has had access to Africa because China decided to democratize. China decided from 1990s to democratize, to embrace the West. Otherwise, They remain economically down. So, but there is a problem. The problem here that we must raise is that the cooperation ties that China is establishing with Africa have a lot of strings attached to it. Strings because when you look at the cooperation ties between Europe and Africa, there are conditions in it. Conditions are beneficial to the African common man. Common man in that they oblige African nations to, or African
but that
countries.
is different with China.
Yes, African countries to be democratized at least. But China comes in and sign any kind of thing. There are monsters in Africa who call themselves presidents. When China comes in, for example, al-Bashir in Sudan, when China comes in, they sign cooperation ties. They do not. China does not want to. China does not want to see if the Sudanese, the Muslim Sudanese, are killing the Darfurians. They don't want to see if the Janjaweed are